everybody. Welcome back to the Bi-Conics Review of Honor here on the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast channel. This is JVL coming to you live for the first time in months, it feels like, with Mikey, with Andrew, and with Jesse. We are here to give you our opinions, our thoughts on Ring of Honor episode 70 on Honor Club that just broadcast last night. And again, like I said, it's opinions, it's thoughts about things. It's not facts and figures because we are all a bunch of idiots that just love this stuff and we're not actual journalists yet. However, we're super excited that you're joining us here tonight to talk about Ring of Honor and that the Lovecraftian algorithm decided to drag you all the way across YouTube to find us. If this is your first time here, subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you here. Drop a comment down below. Tell us, does Jesse look better than the Professor with the look that he has? Because they're very similar. Does Andrew sound amazing even with the microphone that came from 1998? And does Mikey still need sleeves? We had to address this last night. We'd love to hear about that in the comments down there as well. You can also join us on our Patreon if you'd like. We're going to be having live watch-alongs, including partially some stuff for Forbidden Door this upcoming weekend for AEW. But also we have live watch-alongs of the big tentpole pay-per-views going on during the year. And at the Patreon also, you can help support us to get us all to go to WrestleMania in Vegas, which would be amazing to have us all there, or at least be in the area. I think that's about it, Mikey, other than we have a little bit of merch as well. But I just want to dive in here because we, just like AEW, dove in headfirst to the big storyline that ROH has been running. It seems like in perpetuity. We had another emergency mem meeting, and I didn't understand what was going on because I have been gone for a while. So please, catch me up on what's been going on.
Well, before we do that...
I need to interject something. It's not the big story. It's the only story.
That's true.
It's the only story, but I chalk it up because you have been gone for so long. But hands in, boys! Because we have to do the handshake.
Code of honor.
Yes. Even though ROH this week was being disrespectful.
But we didn't do that in the first segment. That's why I did that.
Yep.
However, what's going on? Why was there an emergency men meeting? I know that Athena got injured and all that's going on, but that she had local talent with her as new MITs. Like, what's going on, folks?
So last week...
Yep. Go for it.
So basically, Athena was injured, announced that she'll be out for a good amount of time, but she is choosing to not relinquish the title. That didn't sit well with the top contenders, Queen Aminata and Red Velvet. They came out, had some words, and in the process pushed Billy into Athena. And so now we're addressing that situation because, as we found out in this, it caused some more struggles. And Aminata is not happy that title is just being held, and she feels like she's getting ducked by Athena and Billy. So,
which I love that she had the switch up. She's like, last week it's like, I'm going to be out 4 to 6 months. Now it's 8 to 12 months during this. I'm just like, I need to know. Athena, if you're working me, it's gonna be great.
It's working.
It's working.
Jesse,
I hope it's not as long though. But
it may not. Jesse, let me know though. Like, Billy seems to be stepping into her own in these promos now. She's really starting to take the lead from Athena. Has this been a trend that's been going on, or just something that we're all enjoying?
I think it's a little bit of both. She seems like she's getting more confident on the mic. But she's definitely acting a little more timid on the way to the ring without having Athena as her backup and knowing that. But I think that's just really good character work. And then we have Caprice and Riccaboni kind of backing us up on that and kind of putting it seed throughout the whole match that she had later in the night.
Yeah. And of course, Lexi taking her own big spotlight as well.
I loved Lexi struggling to say the word hussy. And then once she finally got it out, she went like full into it, was spouting some of Athena's classic lines, was fully in support of it. And I think we should officially start the hashtag Get Lexi a Title trend going. So that needs to happen.
Give her the world title. They're not doing anything with it anyway.
Ooh.
And the truth has been spoken.
That's the end of the review. We're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Get into that because I had a whole thesis this morning in our group chat.
We did, but we did jump straight from that opening promo into our first match of the evening. I was excited to see Alex Reynolds actually get to be on ROH TV, but guys, we had our favorite wrestler involved. Tell me, did Big Shotty live up to his now like second on the card billing? Because he's been everywhere now, apparently.
No. There's not a lot of bad about this match. Like, it was well worked. It was very athletic. They were both great in-ring performers, but it just was forgettable. Especially as your opening bout on the night. That was not a good way to start, in my opinion.
No, I think, it was a decent match, and they tried to do some storytelling in there, but we haven't seen enough from either of these guys. There's not enough investment in either of them that there was anything to latch on to really care about in this. Honestly, I think Lee Johnson needs to go full arrogant heel, because this whole good guy struggling to make it and all that, it's not working. Nobody cares.
Mikey,
The
Mikey,
underdog story has been done far too long. It's nobody cares. Nobody cares for the underdog right now. Not in this role.
It's true. And Mikey, I do got to ask this too. Like, is it more disappointing that Alex Reynolds lost, being that the fact that he was getting a little bit over, or is it more disappointing that Lee Johnson, even when he's stuck in any good positions, can't seem to draw anything when he wins?
I think it's both. Because, again, you are utilizing the Dark Order when you want to in some capacity, whether it's tag team, trios, or singles action. I don't know why we're not putting titles on any of the three members, because they are there, for the most part, consistently doing ROH stuff, but you're not doing anything with anybody. And then on the flip side, you have Lee Johnson, and I bring up the same point I did last, during the Dynamite review. To a certain point, the excuse that fans give, and I'm critiquing just the whole plethora of things because it's also a problem in ROH. The in-ring matches and the in-ring abilities are only going to get you to a certain threshold before I start getting bored. Like, the wrestling is going to be phenomenal. There are talents that I love. However, you have to do something more with Lee Johnson. Just getting him from program to program to program is not working, because as much as his in-ring is good, it's starting to wear out its welcome because there's no substance to it. There's nothing to hook me in and care about him as a character. Him as a wrestler, his technical ability is fine, but there's got to be something more, because that's just surface level.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up, because our next match we had up has the same problem, where we have an amazingly talented Marina Shafir who was in her Squatch match, but she's not done a lot of character work to back up what she's got here, which is ostensibly the first real squash match I've seen in the women's division where it wasn't at all competitive. Did you guys feel like that went too? That way, like, it was too quick?
I mean, it was really quick. I wouldn't say it was the first one first women's squash match that I've seen that wasn't competitive, because we had a few with Nyla Rose. But it's the first one in a while, I'll say. I want them to do something where they had that great promo package to build some excitement around her, and it feels like they're waiting too long to pull the trigger on what they're going to do next to develop her.
Well, you got to get somebody to do Kids Fight Club. That's the problem.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I actually enjoyed this Squatch match for her more than I did the previous one, because it was like, okay, if we're going to make her seem this dangerous, she should just go out there and murk her opponents. But I feel like we don't need to see that from her. People already at this point pretty much know her background. We've already seen enough. I want to see her in there have a run against some folks like Mercedes or Nyla, or people where we see them as a challenge, even if we start incorporating their presence into her matches building up to a showdown between them. But I want to see her really look dangerous against somebody else who's dangerous.
And Mikey, also, I know you heard this as well, but they name dropped Ronda Rousey quite a bit in this match. Do you feel like that's going to be a thing foreshadowing her coming in for something, or?
Well, I mean, we saw Ronda, what was it, a couple months ago, come to ROH for a one-off match, because there was that small little feud on the independents with Billy and Athena being into the mix with Ronda and everything. And in that case, that was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. The thing that is going to be brought up all the time, regardless of where any of these women go, is originally you had the 4 horsewomen of MMA, which includes Marina, Ronda, and then, at that point of where MMA was, those were the 4 top women in that division for MMA. And then they were supposed to be this big thing, but through lots of different things, it didn't coalesce, it didn't happen. And I know that they're dropping Ronda because there is that tie into the MMA world because Marina Shafir was also there as well, and now she's in professional wrestling. But at the same time, if you're gonna name drop somebody, I I have this weird thing. Unless they name drop someone to talk about, I don't know, a move or like a history, like this person trained this person kind of thing. I don't know if Ronda Rousey, where she's currently at in this stage of her life and this stage of her career, adds any, what's the word I'm looking for? To use the kids saying, any clout to Marina anyway, to kind of boost that up. I mean, I understand why, because Marina is still fairly young in her wrestling career, so she hasn't really been able to gotten a chance to do much. And I'm happy to see her in ROH so she can start building that legacy. But I don't think that name dropping Ronda and ties to Marina Shafir did anything for her, especially when you couple that with what we have been presented so far, which is not Marina's fault. Like, it's not her fault.
She suffered from that her entire career. But
let's establish a women's pure rules champion because they're not doing the men's right now. It's been quite some time. Let's have a tournament. Let's bring Ronda Rousey in for the pop. Have Marina Shafir, have Layla Hirsch, Rachel Ellering. There's just a bevy of good names who would do really well in that
Lexi
style.
Nair.
Yes, Lexi Nair.
Yo, low key, I would love for Lexi to kind of make it to the finals.
Someone does all our matches for her would be amazing. But going along those lines of just like bringing random people in or just like calling out what you can, we have the Undisputed Kingdom up next doing their promo. And I mean, I got to ask Andrew first off, do you think they're calling out Camarado and Jacoby again just from what they were saying, or was this just terrible?
I mean, I thought they might be, and I don't like it. After that initially happened, then my thought went to maybe we're going to see something with the Righteous, which I would much prefer. I had a problem with their call out because while they have been a bit more active recently than they had previously, what of the established tag teams in Ring of Honor have they actually faced in legitimate matches? The only one they've really faced have been the Infantry, who technically they only won because of Wardlow's interaction. They never rematched him to give him a shot at it again. So I can't deny that they're wrong in the fact that they do get left out of a lot of tag team conversations with what they've actually done. But I feel like their comments about the other teams, and I get that they're the heels, but they're kind of undercutting the amount of work that everybody else did while they were off playing in AEW. We had tag teams who were here week in, week out, really establishing that division. And now that they're kind of here, it seems like we're just kind of putting them to the wayside. And that's what really bothered me with the announcement we got coming after this promo and all that kind of stuff when they're talking about wanting to have some actual competition. So it bothered me, and I hope that we're going somewhere with that. But at this point, I'd like to see some other tag team that's going to be here get that title.
Jesse, do you feel like the Righteous would be the right person to step into that then, especially with what they're doing here?
They would be a right team to step in there. There's a few that come to mind, although it's pretty much heel versus heel, which at this point, give me something. I remember we were all very excited when the Undisputed Kingdom showed up, and it's cool, they've got the titles now, they're going to defend them, they're going to do something with it, and then it feels like, again, Ring of Honor's dropped the ball with them. The Righteous, I think, would make more sense, but they're getting pulled on Collision a lot, so I'm not sure how much time they're going to be able to commit to either. And I don't want it to be in the same situation we've been in with a lot of the other ROH titles, is where they give someone a title and then they stay on AEW TV and we don't see them for weeks to months on Ring of Honor.
Yeah, Mikey, from a writing standpoint, also, it just seemed like this was kind of cobbled together, almost like a off the cuff type of thing that just didn't go anywhere.
No, because essentially this was the same promo, just in a different coat of paint that we got from them last week too, and the week before that, and my writer's instinct is telling me that Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, they are professional and they've been in this game for a very long time at this point. So their promo skills are some of my favorite things. I don't have to critique them on that. I think they're grasping at straws and they're working with what they are being given, which is not a lot. And that's been my critique for Ring of Honor post Super Card of Honor since April. All of May, and we're almost at the end of July at this point. We're cobbling together little bits of story in order for us to be able to have these matches, have these feuds, if you can even call them that at this point. There's got to be a change, and what I'm hoping is because July, you have Arlington, Texas is going to be housing the next 4 collisions and pretty much all of the ROH tapings leading into Death Before Dishonor. I'm hoping that fixes some of the issues that we've been having, which I'll talk about after we talk about the main event. But this is not going anywhere. You literally have you have tag teams, but you're using them as cannon fodder on your AEW shows. It's so frustrating.
We're in a holding pattern, as is seen for the last couple of weeks, and I did watch the shows when I was gone, folks. I did catch up, but it's personified, especially in also all the squash matches we're getting, where it's like, are you putting over local talent or are you not? As we had Lance Archer and the Righteous taking on Duke Davis, Victor Benjamin, and Gavin Jones Jr. It was
the main event.
Yeah,
you're right. It was the main event. He is the main event. I forgot about that. This was more competitive than I thought it would be. I don't know whether this was more enjoyable because of that, because we've been calling for that for a couple of weeks, haven't we, folks? Maybe not. We haven't been calling for more competitive squash matches in the men's division.
I'll go last because I have a lot to say.
It wasn't the smoothest match.
It was so sloppy. Just say it. Pull the bandit off. I love the Righteous. They're my favorite tag team right now. They're probably 2 of my favorite performers in all of wrestling, but it was a very sloppy match. They were doing the best they can with the local talent, who I feel like were very overwhelmed when they were in there.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, I've seen them. So the main event, which was the 2 big dudes that were teamed up with Victor Benjamin, and Victor Benjamin do a lot of independent wrestling. They've been around a lot. Victor Benjamin is actually Lady Frost's husband. And so I've seen
Lord
them
Frost.
Yeah, exactly. The Lord Frost. I've seen them do stuff, and so I know what they're capable of, but it felt very much like not being familiar with each other, not quite sure with what was happening. It was nice to see more than just a straight up Squatch match, though I think the fact that both the main event were Lance Archer and Duke sized, we could have had it a more interesting match. I mean, I've been very vocal about my feelings about Lance Archer to begin with. But I think this just all ties into more of cool. But what are we doing with the Righteous and Lance Archer? Because they could be going after a 6-man title. They could be going after a tag team title. They could be going after a lot of things, but instead we're just doing the same thing that we're doing.
But is that more of a product of the fact that these tapings are 2 weeks behind where like AEW is using them right now and everything else?
Amongst other things. I think it's a variety of problems that AEW is not solving, or the umbrella that covers these companies is not solving. They're just continuing the practices that are causing these problems, and it's just going to compound as we go along.
Mikey, I hear diatribe coming. Are you going to expound upon that?
I mean, I said this earlier this morning when we were talking about this off air, but that's exactly one of the issues that I have is because, and I'll bring it back up in our main event, these are tapings that are literally 2 weeks behind. So, there is a method to pre-tape and to tell stories that are somewhat coherent. There's another small company that does that, and it's hit or miss sometimes, but at least there's some consistency. And that's my biggest problem with ROH right now. It's literally, right now, ROH is the equivalent of like an elementary schooler's like macrame project, where you just take bits and pieces of macaroni, what's left of pipe cleaners, scraps of, paper, and throw everything together and try to present it, and voila, this is the next like Van Gogh painting. In hindsight, you try to give this student, kudos for effort. You did the assignment, But it's not fair to give that praise when another student, or i.e. another promotion, is doing it and doing it better. I am tired of giving, and these fans, I am tired of fans giving a pass to the umbrella of these promotions, because the term, this is where the best wrestle, is getting really old, and it is stupid, and it doesn't exist, because wrestling is subjective, folks. But you can't keep giving this company an excuse and a pass for mediocrity. That is what they are presenting to me, and I don't want that. I'm going to continue to be an ROH shill because there's a lot of talent, and thanks to New Jersey Wrestle Show, we got to talk to some of this talent and understand them better, and they're great folks.
We are biased. We're very biased
better.
toward them.
But even if we weren't, you have to do right by your talent, and you are not.
Andrew, Jesse, I got to ask you also, Mikey did bring up the fact that we're comparing apples to oranges here with other companies that are doing this. As parents and as being taught to be gentle parents, are we supposed to be comparing our children to other children across the way that are doing things better? Or are we supposed to encourage them to get better at what they do best in their own realm? Because we could do that with ROH.
I thought we were supposed to compete with every small child that we saw. I mean, I compete with them myself, so.
I was going to say.
No one's faster than me, that's for sure. Not yet.
Not beating me at Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly. Builds character.
No, I mean, I think...
Play through the tears.
I think part of the problem is these are wrestling companies, and they are competing, even Ring of Honor and AEW. But the problem is there's plenty of examples of how things that they're doing could be handled better, and how the promotion Ring of Honor itself could be handled better by the executives that are in charge of it. And we've even seen it in recent history, glimpses of, wonderful things that they can do. And it's almost like we got past Supercard of Honor and it was just nobody has any direction, and everybody is just excited by the new idea that comes up and not taking any time to think about it or committing to the things that they were doing before that.
Makes sense. We then moved on from our kind of weird Squatch match there to a match I was excited about, pitting two people that have had a pretty good run on the roster of Taya Valkyrie and Trish Adora together. Gentlemen, where did this go wrong? Where did it fall down? Because this should have been the best match of the card.
Time. They weren't given enough time. It ended way too quickly. That's it. They went, we got one women's match on here, or we have two women's matches on here. This one better not go too long, and they cut the time. There's your problem. This was going to be, I looked at the card and said, this is going to be my match of the night. I already know it going in. And then the ending was just like that.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that it was so short, and it was the only women's match that wasn't an outright Squatch match. I think time was part of it, but I don't know. It was weird because it was good that there was back and forth between the two of them. But I've seen much more interesting matches from both of these performers, and watching this just felt me wanting something. Like there was something missing from it, which is a shame because they're both not just great in-ring performers, but great character performers, and they could have clicked really well, and it was like something just was off. But yeah, it was a bummer that this match wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be.
Mikey, I don't know if you feel the same as me on this, where it felt like their match back and forth was like a middle part of a 3-person tag match they were in, and that's all the time they were given to get done, and this is what they would have done.
I think there's a couple of elements, because if we break apart, all the things that make a wrestling match, not only the in-ring action. Yeah. So there was just at some points where it didn't seem they connected, which is unfortunate because Taya and Trish are really good. And Ian and Caprice keep bringing up that Trish is training at the New Japan Dojo, which anybody who knows that they ain't no slouch. Like, they put their trainees through the ringer, which is great because it makes them better. What also doesn't help, too, is that these crowds are just not into it either. And it's very unfortunate that all the performers had to deal with a very non-back-and-forth crowd. I mean, y'all aren't wrestling fans. I know you are there for the AEW stuff, but come on now. These are people that are doing the darn thing, and they're doing it. So I think it was a mixture of just parts of the match not clicking, as well as the non-investment of the crowd to give a hoot about this match, which is very unfortunate.
Terrible. Terrible. We then go backstage. We talk to Layla Hirsch about her kind of back and forth matches with Diamante. Diamante responds in kind because we've got to get everybody on the screen. And I see the top of Andrew's head, which makes me want to ask Andrew, how would you have saved this? How could you have made this better than what we got, basically?
It was so awkward. When they first came out, like when Layla Hirsch was talking, then Diamante showed up. I will tell you, there was one moment where it changed, and it was right at the end, and it was when they both started getting heated with each other. And it was almost like they stopped having to force read the script that like was given to them, and they just got to do it, came naturally. And for those last few moments, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. I would have had it start there. Don't have Layla be this humble little, like, I'm just gonna be, oh, I'm kind of mad, and but I've won and all this kind, like, let them have what they should have started with the energy that they ended with and gone from there.
Jesse, did you feel the same way watching it? Because I know you love both performers.
What do you mean by that?
You do enjoy Layla Hirsch and Diamante. We've talked about it before.
Me?
Yes, you.
No,
Weaponized ignorance is the best, folks. Let me tell you.
Weaponized ignorance. I have a superpower. That being said, I wanted this to be a lot better than it was. Every time Layla's on the mic, it seems like she's reading from a script and she's not enjoying it. They're trying to make her be something she isn't. Don't do that. Stop doing that. Stop forcing people to act or pretend they are a way that they're not. Let them play to their strengths, and you'll get much better product, especially in these promos.
Oh, Mikey. Oh, Mikey.
I mean, I'm a broken record at this point. There are just ways that you can get these matches. And again, I go back to the example I brought up not that long ago. You are scrambling to throw things together to have a semblance of a feud. But while I am excited about the no-holds-barred match we are going to get between these two at some point, which I think is going to be fantastic, I was like, great, perfect, plays to their strength. They're going to kill each other. It's going to be fun to watch.
But again, we're back to the fact of the match is going to be great with no build.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. The wrestling's going to be fun. It's going to be fantastic. But I'm at the point with this particular company and its umbrella, I'm no longer going to give an excuse for mediocrity. There has to be some substance to it, because otherwise you are just another shallow promotion. And there are a lot of independent promotions that are kind of doing it better right now. And
we talked about comparing our kids to other kids. We're supposed to do that, and we're supposed to beat them. We're not going to compare them, though. Come on.
No. Because if this is how you're going to treat my intelligence as a wrestling fan, and you're going to stomp on the passion that I have for what we do here, and if you are not going to treat said intelligence and my integrity and my willingness to support you no matter what, at some point, I have to take a step back and reanalyze, why am I going so hard to defend you if you are not going to be giving me something to latch onto beyond the wrestling? And I don't care if it sounds like I'm coming off harsh, because I love ROH. I will live and die for this company. I bleed
Mikey,
ROH. But
Mikey, and because you do,
yep.
We have somebody that you've latched onto in the next match, and that's the huge thing right there. Because all of us have latched on to Billy Starks. All of us are behind her and everything here. And her taking on Angelica Risk was a pretty damn good match for what it was. I enjoyed this. Was my match of the night more than the main event. And I loved the main event for what it was. Do we think that Angelica Risk deserves a better push now that she's been on 2 or 3 times and taken a couple of different women's matches pretty far into the deep rounds?
I will say this is the kind of Squatch match I'm okay with. Had this been the only one that we had in the whole night, would have been great. it wasn't too short for a Squatch match. And I thought what it did was, like, we saw Risk try to kind of fight back and kind of not take anything from Billy, which then made Billy angrier. And so that made her go more all out. And it was like, instead of just finishing her, she was like, no, 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 now I'm going to beat you. And I love that, she called out to Athena. She called out and taunted her rival in her ongoing storyline. She did great work in not only looking more dangerous, which I love seeing that change in Billy from the like playful kind of lighthearted, even when she's being a heel Billy, to the just like mean kind of, thug Billy that's just gonna just like beat her opponents up. Um, and then doing the storytelling, keeping that going, even in the Squatch match. So I did really enjoy this, and I thought for what kind of match we were getting, I thought this was the way that you handled it.
Jesse, how are you feeling about your favorite wonderful person that you and your daughter love to watch fully going full on, like, get the business done and get out in her matches?
I love pissed off Billy. I am a big fan of that. Her just be like, okay, we're having fun. Okay, you know what? Now we're done. I'm done with this. And then just like that one counter and then the boot right to the face is like, okay, yeah, she turned on another gear. It was really well done, and I think it kind of goes in tandem with the fact that she knows that Athena's not really there to back her up, so she can't do that playful side for as long as she used to. So I think we're going to be seeing more of frustrated, upset, and angry Billy.
Mikey, are you expecting more run-ins in the next couple of weeks on her Bi-Aminat and Red Velvet to kind of keep this going, or is this kind of just what she's going to do?
That is my hope. But again, because these are 2 weeks behind, who knows what else is going to be coming to us for ROH, because what was it? It was last week or the week before that we had Taya call out Queen. And then I'm just like, oh, okay, cool, sure. I'm like, I'm here for this match. And then I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. I don't know. It's really difficult. I would love to see more run-ins from Queen and Red Velvet into Billy now that it's like more of a 2-on-1 situation, which I think is great. Again, it adds dimension because Red and Queen would be diving more into heel tactics, kind of, which is nice. But they also have a point because Billy and Athena have been ducking them post Super Card of Honor, and we haven't had them come together to either have a rematch or start building to that. You literally have 5 weeks until Death Before Dishonor. Let's start getting the ball rolling.
They've had to
for that pay-per-view. I am genuinely scared.
Well, and look at the fact that we're 2 weeks behind. They're already 2 weeks ahead of us, and we don't know what the build's going to be. I do agree, though, Mikey, if we're going to have those run-ins, we need to have a Crow version of Lexi Nair come down from the rafters with a bat to protect Billy. So
yes, or at least have her jump the barricade in a hoodie.
That's better.
But we end tonight on a much lauded and put out main event that was kind of set up both in AEW and here as well. I know, Andrew, we'll get to why you didn't like it. I understand that you're shaking your head about it. And I understand from a standpoint of the titles, it is really, really screwed up. But the actual work rate was beyond amazing. And when you set up a thing where Kyle Fletcher's going to call out your title holder, you want this to happen. We have Kyle Fletcher taking on Mark Briscoe on ROH, having it defended. Did you enjoy seeing your world championship finally defended on ROH, or was it kind of a downer?
I forgot he was the champion. The match was pretty good. But I was like, oh, this is a world title. Wait, who's the champion? And then Mark, I was like, oh, right, that guy.
Yeah, I starting off with the actual match itself, it started off a little rough for me, and I was concerned that their two styles were not going to mix well. But then it picked up, especially once Fletcher got the chance to do all of the things that Fletcher does and really give the beating that Mark Briscoe can take. It was a good match. There were moments when, not knowing what the outcome was going to be, I was questioning, are we taking the title off of Mark Briscoe? Are we really setting up Kyle Fletcher to be a double champion? Are we doing those things?
I said that last night.
And that part of the match was really great. Had we had more of a build up, could have been a phenomenal match. Could have been something I was looking forward to so much. But my problem with this match, the way it was set up, the premise of it, what was actually happening was, at best, if Mark Briscoe lost the title, we're just playing pass the baton with the world title. At worst, we're handing Fletcher a loss that he doesn't need. He's had such a consistent run. He's been the only male champion to actually be there defending his title, giving honor to the Ring of Honor championship, and now we're giving him a loss that he didn't need to take, especially to someone who has not been showing up on Ring of Honor. Someone that we all thought, great, Mark Briscoe wasn't being used in AEW like he should have been, after they used him after his brother's death, and they used that clout to like, oh, look at what we're doing for Mark. Then he just kind of got pushed out of the way. Then was like, okay, we're going to give him this Ring of Honor world title shot. He wins it. Cool. He loves Ring of Honor. He's a Ring of Honor guy. We're going to see him here. He's going to bring back that title, and we're going to get a refocus on this. And then what do? They stick him in multiple multi-man titles and 8-man storylines and all this kind of stuff. And it just becomes a prop again. And so we have this all happening that just made both sides of this match, both titles, both the competitors, not come out of this looking any stronger, other than going, it was a good match. But was it anything beyond what we expected from these two performers?
I wouldn't say so.
Mikey, did you miss coked up Mark Briscoe for this one? Because he's so different in AEW when he's flying off the handle.
That is very true. I want to preface by saying this first. I ride or die for Mark Briscoe. I love him to death. The Briscoes are one of my favorite tag teams of all times, given their history and how much they mean to Ring of Honor. Giving Mark Briscoe the title and seeing how we have handled him as ROH World Champion from that moment of Supercard of Honor, even though there is no relation between him and Tony Khan in terms of familial-wise, this is like a weird example of nepotism at its finest. You gave Mark Briscoe the title, as Andrew said, because of the name and how much people love the Briscoe name and how much history that name has with ROH. But the way that you have utilized your world champion when it comes to Ring of Honor, and with all of that, barely being there, you literally have had 3 other champions leading into this that have had the same problem. You had Jericho hold that thing for a little bit, which, lest we forget, he held that thing 2 years ago because he was El Ocho. That is where it went. Then you gave it to Claudio. Again, same problem. Barely on ROH television, not defending that thing. He defended it once. Then Eddie Kingston won it, and you started off okay, and then you fell into the same problem. You barely saw Eddie. He lost that to Mark Briscoe with a 2-week build to Supercard of Honor's match. Now you're giving it to Mark, and you have made him fall into the same pattern that your last 3 ROH World Champions have fallen into. It's no wonder Jonathan Gresham left once Ring of Honor got conglomerated into the umbrella of this. I would be pissed off too. I'm sorry.
Did you have to say conglomerated after what's going on in AEW, where he's in the conglomeration now too? So that's just, we're leaving this be. They made both a wonderful match and a bad choice, and the hope is that maybe this can be continued down the road with more build based on this. Do something with it. That's it for Ring of Honor this week. We got through this entire thing. Starting with Andrew, going to Jesse, going to Mikey. I'd love to get your empanada ring, but also just your feeling like, do we have enough here to think that even 2 weeks ahead, we're going to be building enough to Death Before Dishonor, or are we just in some limbo that's going to be overshadowed by All Out and by Forbidden Door and all this other stuff that's going on?
Yes, to your second point. There's such a lack of storytelling under the entire umbrella. Nothing has much weight to it. I feel like what we're going to get for Death Before Dishonor is going to be a worse version of what we got for Supercard of Honor. I feel like we're going to get the 2 women's matches that are going to have build-ups to them because we've been building them up consistently, following on story on story on story with what we've been doing with them. And everything else is going to be, what can we throw together last minute? What names can we just tack on so we can make it seem exciting and we can just get some name value out of these big stars that we can put in here, or somebody that will just draw some attention instead of actually developing some quality. I also, Ring of Honor has to go at least 1 week without having a Squatch match, because it has now become their specialty match setup, their match style. Half of the matches this week were Squatch matches, and that seems to be a very consistent thing across the board with Ring of Honor. It's just, that is just a symptom of the poor planning of everything that they have going on, and it's not helping them at all. It's not helping the people that are winning. It's definitely not helping the people who are losing, and it's not helping everything around it. Simply because of the quality of some of the performers in the ring, but because of the lack of story and development, I gave this week a 7. It was mid at best. And I really hope that we're going to start to get some quality. It's they need to develop more.
Jesse?
I don't want to belabor the point that Andrew had made, because I'm in agreement with him on the majority of that, especially when all these squatches, when they play up the title card and it says this person in action, they're in a squatch match. You know that anymore. So it almost takes the fun out of watching them perform. This was a 5. It was very forgettable. I am scared to death for the concept of Death Before Dishonor, because we've really got very little going for it. And I'm concerned that they're going to realize that a week before and be like, oh, well, better pull Blackpool Combat Club down and throw them in a match. And better pull Bang Gang down. Why can't we say the name? Because I think it's so stupid. And put them in a match. And have it be AEW Light again, like it was for Supercard.
Mercedes Moné comes down to take the title. Yeah, we all know. But Mikey, go right ahead.
I'm going to keep this short because I don't want to subject my co-host to a long rant, but I give 5 empanadas out of 10. I give the same score as Jesse for the points that I brought up throughout this whole review, that the lack of stories and the cobbled together feuds are no longer keeping my interest. I am supporting ROH at this point because I want more for the talent that is in ROH. And I have been sitting with this feeling for the last couple of weeks that I'm going to give my full thoughts in a special video in a week and a half of my feelings and how I would fix this. I have a whole thesis ready to go for this. But every single week, I'm going to support this talent no matter what. That's never going to change. But at some point, and I can't speak for my other co-hosts because we're all individuals and we think differently, which makes this a beautiful, review team because we all bring different aspects. But for me, you cannot keep giving me mediocrity and hope that I'm going to latch onto something, because if I'm giving you my time, my effort, my energy, supporting the talent is no longer going to be enough. ROH is already not treated too kindly in the sphere of just in general with wrestling fans. And I know what ROH has been capable of and is capable of for what we've seen the last year or so. Like 2023 was fantastic for ROH. And it got a lot of our hosts who don't watch ROH to tune in and want to support this. But since Supercard of Honor, it's very, very hard to articulate, to try to convince somebody to watch ROH outside of, the wrestling is going to be phenomenal. At what point as reviewers, at one point as, in some cases, journalistic integrity, the little that we have since we're not really a journalistic publication, but as intelligent wrestling fans that want the best for this business and for this talent. When are we going to stop giving a pass to mediocrity is all I'm saying. So all that being said, this week's gets a 5 out of 10, and it's going to continue to be that way until ROH starts doing more than just throwing matches for the sake of throwing matches on the card.
And to leave it there, I gave it a 6 this week just because it was saved by the last 2 matches on the card itself. Everything else was pretty mediocre. We sat through it. We did it. I have missed you all very much. Thank you for holding down the fort and doing it better without me there. I've been so happy to be here with you. Hands in to get our last little bit of the Code of Honor. And, of course, we're all going to do it left-handed like Angelica Risk did to go up against everything else. Thank you all for joining us here on The Bro. We have enjoyed having you in our room and playing around with us and listening to our wonderful opinions. Please come back, subscribe to the channel, let us know you're going to be here. And, again, remember to comment down below whether Mikey should wear sleeves. And, of course, if nothing else you do here, nothing else, subscribe or anything else, but we do ask, please stay Bi-Conic, and we'll see you in the next video. Gonna happen. Thank you, Big Van Vader, right there, coming to us from Northern California.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.